Maya sat on the old wooden steps outside her house. She was only 12 years old, but her eyes looked older. They had seen struggle. They had seen hardship. But they had also seen beauty in the smallest things. Her house was small. The paint was peeling off the walls. The roof had patches where her father had fixed the leaks. It was not much, but it was home. Maya loved it because her family was there. Her father, Robert, worked as a janitor at the big office building downtown. Every morning, he woke up at 4 o'clock. He put on his blue uniform and walked to the bus stop. The bus came at 5. He worked hard all day, mopping floors and cleaning bathrooms. He never complained. He always came home with a smile for Maya and her younger brother, Tommy. Her mother, Sarah, was a seamstress. She sewed clothes for people in the neighborhood. She sat at her old sewing machine for hours every day. The machine made a loud noise, but her mother's hands moved like magic. She could turn plain cloth into beautiful dresses. She worked late into the night sometimes. Maya would watch her mother's tired face and wish she could help more. Money was always tight in their home. Maya knew this, even though her parents tried to hide it. She heard them talking late at night when they thought she was asleep. She heard the worry in their voices when bills came. She saw her mother count coins before going to the market. Maya wore the same clothes to school many times. Her shoes had been fixed 3 times already. The sole was coming off again, but she did not tell her parents. She knew they would worry. She knew they would try to buy new shoes even if it meant they would eat less, so she said nothing and walked carefully. At school, things were different. Maya went to Lincoln Middle School. It was a public school, but many rich families sent their children there too. The school had a good reputation. It had won many awards. The building was nice and clean. It had a big library and a computer lab. It even had a music room. Maya loved the music room. She would walk past it slowly between classes. Through the small window in the door, she could see the instruments. There were guitars, violins, drums, and even a beautiful piano. The piano was black and shiny. Maya thought it was the most beautiful thing she had ever seen. But Maya never went inside the music room. Music classes cost extra money. Students had to pay for lessons. They had to rent the instruments. Maya's family could not afford it. She knew this without asking. So she only looked through the window and dreamed. The other students at school were different from Maya. Many of them came from wealthy families. They wore new clothes every week. They had the latest phones and tablets. They talked about vacations to places Maya had never heard of. They lived in big houses with swimming pools and game rooms. These students did not talk to Maya much. Some ignored her completely. Others looked at her with pity or disgust. They whispered when she walked by. Maya heard the words they said. She heard them call her poor. She heard them laugh at her clothes. It hurt, but she tried not to show it. She held her head high and kept walking. Maya had learned to be invisible. She sat in the back of the classroom. She ate lunch alone under a tree in the corner of the schoolyard. She did not raise her hand even when she knew the answer. It was easier this way. When people did not notice you, they could not hurt you. But Maya had a secret. She had a passion that burned inside her like a small flame. She loved music. She loved it more than anything in the world. It started 3 years ago. Maya found an old tablet in the trash behind the electronics store. It was cracked and slow, but it still worked. She cleaned it carefully and charged it at school. She was afraid to take it home at first. She thought someone might have thrown it away by mistake. But after a week, when no one claimed it, she kept it. With that tablet, Maya discovered a whole new world. She found free videos online. Videos of people playing piano. Videos of concerts and performances. Videos that taught music theory and techniques. Maya watched them all. She watched them during lunch. She watched them after school. She watched them late at night under her blanket with the sound turned very low. Maya could not practice on a real piano. She did not have one. But she practiced in her mind. She watched the videos and moved her fingers in the air. She memorized the keys. She learned which finger went where. She studied the patterns and the movements. She learned about scales and chords and melodies. Sometimes Maya would close her eyes and imagine. She imagined sitting at a beautiful grand piano. She imagined her fingers touching the smooth keys. She imagined the sound filling the room. In these moments, she was not poor Maya from the small house. She was a musician. She was an artist. She was free. Her parents did not know about her passion. Maya never told them. She did not want them to feel bad that they could not buy her a piano or pay for lessons. She kept her dream hidden deep inside her heart. At school, Maya had one friend. Her name was Lisa. Lisa was quiet like Maya. She was not rich either. Her family struggled too. Lisa and Maya sometimes sat together at lunch. They did not talk much, but they understood each other. That was enough. One day, Lisa asked Maya what she wanted to be when she grew up. Maya hesitated. She had never said it out loud before. But something made her trust Lisa. She whispered, "I want to be a pianist." Lisa looked surprised. "But you do not take music lessons," she said. Maya nodded. "I know. I teach myself. I watch videos and learn." Lisa smiled. It was a kind smile. "I think you would be a great pianist," she said. Those words meant everything to Maya. Someone believed in her. Someone thought her dream was possible. Maya felt warm inside. She felt hope. But most days were hard. Most days, Maya felt the weight of being different. She felt the shame of being poor. She felt the loneliness of being invisible. She wondered if things would ever change. She wondered if she would ever get a chance to show what she could do. Maya did not know that her chance was coming soon. She did not know that in just a few weeks everything would change. She did not know that she would face her biggest fear and her greatest moment all at once. For now she was just Maya, the quiet girl, the poor girl, the invisible girl, the girl who dreamed of music but had never touched a real piano, the girl who practiced in the air and played concerts in her mind, the girl who carried a secret flame of hope in her heart. As the sun set that evening, Maya sat on her steps and hummed a melody. It was a song she had learned from one of her videos. It was beautiful and sad at the same time, just like her life. Full of struggle but also full of dreams, dark in some ways but with small lights of hope shining through. She did not know it yet, but that small flame inside her was about to become a fire that would light up the darkness, a fire that would show everyone who Maya really was, a fire that no one could put out. The Monday morning started like any other day at Lincoln Middle School. Maya walked through the front gates with her worn backpack. She kept her eyes down as she passed groups of students laughing and talking. No one noticed her. That was how she liked it. She walked to her locker and put away her jacket. The locker next to hers belonged to Jessica Hamilton. Jessica was one of the most popular girls in school. Her father owned a chain of hotels. Her mother was a famous lawyer. Jessica wore a different designer outfit every day. Her long blonde hair was always perfect. She had the newest phone and carried an expensive handbag. Jessica arrived at her locker with her group of friends. They were all talking and laughing loudly. Maya tried to make herself smaller. She pressed against her locker and hoped they would not notice her. But Jessica noticed. She always did. She looked at Maya's faded jeans and old sneakers. Her lip curled slightly. She whispered something to her friends. They all giggled. Maya felt her face get hot, but she said nothing. She grabbed her books and walked away quickly. The first class was English. Maya sat in her usual seat in the back corner. She opened her notebook and waited for class to begin. Mrs. Peterson walked in with a big smile on her face. She looked excited about something. "Good morning, class," Mrs. Peterson said. "I have wonderful news to share with you today." The students stopped talking and looked at the teacher. Maya looked up too. She was curious despite herself. "As many of you know, our school is celebrating its 50th anniversary this year," Mrs. Peterson continued. "The school board has decided to hold a very special charity fundraiser event. It will be held at the Grand Theater downtown." Whispers filled the classroom. The Grand Theater was the most famous venue in the city. Only important events happened there. Concerts, plays, and special performances. Maya had walked past it once. She had stood outside and looked at the beautiful building. She had dreamed of going inside someday. "This will be a very prestigious event," Mrs. Peterson said. "Many important people from our city will attend. Business leaders, politicians, and community members. All the money raised will go to improving our school's facilities." A hand shot up. It was Marcus, another popular student. "Will we all go to this event?" he asked. Mrs. Peterson nodded. "Yes. All students from grades 6 through 8 are invited. It will be on Friday evening, 3 weeks from now. There will be dinner, speeches, and a special musical performance by a professional pianist. The school is arranging buses to take everyone there." The classroom erupted in excited chatter. Students talked about what they would wear. They talked about the Grand Theater. They talked about the fancy dinner. Maya felt her heart beat faster. She had never been to anything like this before. She had never been inside a grand theater. She had certainly never seen a professional pianist perform live. But then worry crept in. What would she wear? Everyone would be dressed in fancy clothes. She only had a few dresses. They were all old and simple. Her mother had made them from leftover fabric. They were clean and neat, but they were not fancy. Maya knew she would stand out. People would stare. They would whisper. Still, she wanted to go. She wanted to see the theater. She wanted to hear the pianist play. She wanted to be part of something special, even if just for one night. At lunch, Maya sat under her usual tree. Lisa came and sat next to her. Lisa had heard the news too. Her eyes were bright with excitement. "Are you going to the fundraiser?" Lisa asked. Maya nodded slowly. "I think so." "Are you?" "Yes. I have never been to the Grand Theater. My mom said she will help me find a dress. Maybe we can sit together?" Lisa smiled hopefully. Maya smiled back. "I would like that." For the next 3 weeks, the fundraiser was all anyone talked about at school. The popular students talked about their designer dresses and expensive suits. They talked about getting their hair done professionally. They talked about arriving in limousines. Jessica Hamilton bragged that her dress cost more than $2,000. Maya listened to all this and felt smaller each day. She looked at her clothes at home. She had one dress that might work. It was navy blue with small white flowers. Her mother had made it for her last year. It was a bit short now because Maya had grown, but it was the best she had. The night before the event, Maya's mother noticed her looking worried. Sarah sat down next to her daughter on the bed. "What is wrong, sweetheart?" she asked gently. Maya told her about the fundraiser. She told her about the grand theater and the fancy dinner. She told her about the other students and their expensive clothes. She tried not to cry. Sarah's eyes filled with sadness. She pulled Maya close and hugged her tight. "Oh, my sweet girl," she whispered. "I wish I could buy you a beautiful new dress. I wish I could give you everything those other children have." Maya hugged her mother back. "It is okay, Mama. The blue dress is fine. I just want to hear the music." That night, Sarah stayed up very late. She took apart an old formal dress of her own. It was a dress she had worn to her wedding many years ago. It was simple but elegant. She worked through the night, cutting and sewing. She adjusted it to fit Maya's size. She added small touches to make it look more current. In the morning, she showed Maya the dress. It was beautiful. The fabric was a soft cream color. It had a simple but elegant design. It was not fancy like the dresses the other girls would wear, but it was lovely. Maya's eyes filled with tears. "Mama, this is too much." "This was your wedding dress." Sarah smiled. "It was just sitting in the closet. Now it will be beautiful on you." "You deserve something special, Maya. You are special." Maya hugged her mother tight. She felt loved. She felt valued. Even if others did not see it, her mother did. Friday evening arrived. Maya put on the cream-colored dress. Her mother helped her with her hair, braiding it neatly. She wore her old shoes, but they were clean and polished. She looked at herself in the mirror. She did not look rich, but she looked nice. She looked like herself. Her father drove her to school where the buses were waiting. He kissed her forehead before she got out of the car. "Have a wonderful time, princess," he said. "You look beautiful." Maya walked to the buses. Students were already gathering. The girls were dressed in glittering dresses. The boys wore suits and ties. They looked like they were going to a Hollywood party. Maya felt plain next to them, but she held her head high. She found Lisa, who was wearing a simple pink dress. They smiled at each other with relief. At least they had each other. They got on the bus together and sat near the back. The bus ride took 30 minutes. As they got closer to downtown, the buildings got taller. The streets got busier, and then there it was, the Grand Theater. It was even more beautiful than Maya had imagined. The building was huge and old-fashioned. It had tall columns and beautiful architecture. Lights lit up the entrance. A red carpet led to the front doors. Maya's breath caught in her throat. She was really here. She was really going inside. Her heart pounded with excitement and nervousness. She did not know it yet, but this night would change her life forever. This night would test her in ways she could never imagine. This night would reveal who she truly was to the world. As the bus stopped and students began filing out, Maya took a deep breath. She followed the crowd toward the red carpet. She was about to step into a new world. A world that would challenge her. A world that would judge her. But also a world that held magic and music. A world where dreams could come true. She just had to be brave enough to reach for them. Maya stepped off the bus and onto the sidewalk. The Grand Theater rose before her like a palace from a fairy tale. She had seen it from the outside before, but now she was actually going inside. Her legs felt shaky as she walked toward the entrance. The red carpet felt soft under her worn shoes. Photographers stood on both sides taking pictures. They were there to capture the important guests, the wealthy donors, and the city officials. They barely glanced at the students, but Maya felt like everyone was watching her. She felt exposed and small. Lisa grabbed her hand. They walked together through the tall doors. The moment Maya stepped inside, she forgot about her fears. The lobby took her breath away. The ceiling was painted with beautiful scenes of angels and clouds. A massive crystal chandelier hung from the center, casting sparkles of light everywhere. The walls were decorated with gold trim and red velvet curtains. Marble stairs curved upward on both sides. "This is amazing," Lisa whispered. Her eyes were wide with wonder. Maya could only nod. She had never seen anything so beautiful. People in fancy clothes filled the lobby. Women wore glittering gowns and expensive jewelry. Men wore tailored suits. They held champagne glasses and talked in low, sophisticated voices. These were the donors, the wealthy families, the important people of the city. Maya saw her classmates scattered throughout the crowd. Jessica Hamilton stood with her parents near the center of the lobby. Her dress was bright red and covered in sequins. It sparkled like a disco ball. Her mother wore a diamond necklace that probably cost more than Maya's house. Jessica's father talked loudly with other businessmen, laughing at his own jokes. Marcus and his friends stood near the refreshment table. They were dressed in expensive suits. They looked older than 12. They acted confident and comfortable, like they belonged in places like this. They probably went to fancy events all the time. Maya and Lisa stayed near the wall. They felt safer there, away from the crowd. They watched everything with curious eyes. A waiter passed by with a tray of appetizers. They looked delicious, but Maya was too nervous to take any. After 20 minutes, a bell rang. A voice announced that everyone should move to the main auditorium. The performance would begin soon. The crowd started flowing toward the large doors at the end of the lobby. Maya and Lisa followed the crowd. They walked through the doors and stopped. The auditorium was even more magnificent than the lobby. Rows and rows of red velvet seats faced a huge stage. More chandeliers hung from the ceiling. Balconies wrapped around the sides. The walls were decorated with carved wood and gold paint. And there, in the center of the stage, was a piano. It was a grand piano, black and glossy. The stage lights made it shine like a jewel. Maya stared at it. She could not look away. That piano called to something deep inside her. She wanted to touch it so badly her fingers ached. The students were directed to seats in the middle section. The adults sat in the better seats near the front and in the balconies. Maya and Lisa found seats on the aisle. Maya was glad for the aisle seat. It gave her a clear view of the stage, a clear view of that beautiful piano. People continued filing in. The auditorium filled up. Everyone was chatting and laughing. The principal of Lincoln Middle School went on stage and made a speech. He talked about the school's 50-year history. He talked about excellence and community. He thanked the donors for their generosity. Maya barely heard him. Her eyes stayed fixed on the piano. After the principal finished, the mayor spoke. Then a school board member, then another businessman. Maya's mind drifted. She imagined walking up to that stage. She imagined sitting at that piano. She imagined her fingers on those keys. What would it feel like? What would it sound like? Finally, the speeches ended. The lights dimmed. A spotlight hit the stage. The crowd fell silent. A woman's voice came over the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to present tonight's musical performance by the renowned pianist Catherine Chen." Everyone clapped. Maya clapped too, but her heart sank a little. The professional pianist would play soon. Then the piano would be covered and put away. Maya would leave, having only looked at it from far away. She would never know what it felt like to touch those keys. But something unexpected happened. Catherine Chen did not appear. Instead, another announcement came. "We apologize for the delay. Ms. Chen has been unavoidably detained by traffic. She will arrive shortly. Please feel free to stretch your legs." We will resume in 15 minutes. The lights came back up. People stood and started talking again. Some walked back to the lobby. Others stayed in their seats. Maya saw an opportunity. Before she could think about it too much, she stood up. "Where are you going?" Lisa asked. "I just want to see the stage up close," Maya said. Her voice trembled slightly. Lisa nodded. "I will come with you." They walked down the aisle toward the stage. A few other students had the same idea. They stood at the edge of the stage looking up at the piano. Security guards stood nearby, but they did not seem concerned about the students looking. Maya stood at the bottom of the stage steps. The piano was only about 20 feet away. She could see every detail. The smooth black surface, the perfect white and black keys, the polished wood. It was the most beautiful instrument she had ever seen. Without thinking, Maya walked up the steps. Her feet moved on their own. She heard Lisa call her name quietly, but she did not stop. She walked across the stage. The spotlight was off now, but she still felt like she was in a bright light. She felt like she was in a dream. She reached the piano. Her hand stretched out. Her fingers touched the smooth wood. It was cool and perfect. She walked around to the keys. She stood looking down at them. Black and white, arranged in their eternal pattern. The pattern she had memorized from videos. The pattern she had practiced in the air 1,000 times. Then she heard the voice. "Look at her." Maya's head snapped up. Jessica Hamilton stood at the edge of the stage with her group of friends. They were all looking at Maya. Jessica had a smirk on her face. "What is she doing?" Another girl said loudly. "Does she even know what a piano is?" Jessica laughed. Her voice carried across the auditorium. Other people started looking. Other students noticed. Adults turned to see what was happening. Maya felt frozen. She wanted to run, but her legs would not move. She stood there with her hand near the piano keys exposed on the stage for everyone to see. Marcus and his friends joined Jessica. "Someone like her should not even touch something so expensive," Marcus said. His voice was loud and cruel. "That piano probably cost more than her whole house." The other students laughed. The sound echoed through the auditorium. Maya felt tears forming in her eyes. She felt shame burning in her chest. She should not have come up here. She should not have touched the piano. Who did she think she was? "What, did you learn piano from street performers?" Another boy called out. More laughter followed. Even some adults were smiling now, amused by the scene. They saw a poor girl touching something she should not touch. They saw someone out of place. The teachers were there. Mrs. Peterson and 2 other teachers stood nearby. But they did not help. They looked uncomfortable. They looked away. They did not want to make a scene. They did not want to embarrass the wealthy families by defending Maya. Maya's hand pulled back from the piano. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She turned to leave the stage. She wanted to disappear. She wanted to run out of the theater and never come back. This was the worst moment of her life. But then something stopped her. A voice inside her head spoke clearly. "You belong here too. You love this piano more than any of them. You have dreamed of this moment. Do not let them take it from you." Maya stood still. The mocking continued behind her, but she heard something else. She heard music in her mind. She heard the songs she had learned. She heard the melodies that had saved her during hard times. She heard her own heart beating. She turned back to face the crowd. Her tears were still falling, but something had changed in her eyes. Fear was still there, but so was something else. Determination, courage, purpose. What happened next would shock everyone in that theater. It would silence the mocking laughter. It would change everything. But in this moment, Maya just stood there, facing her tormentors, standing next to the piano, making a choice. The choice to be brave. The choice to show who she really was. Maya stood on the stage, her heart pounding so hard she thought everyone could hear it. The laughter continued. Jessica and her friends were enjoying the show. They had found their entertainment for the evening. A poor girl who dared to touch something above her station. It was hilarious to them. "Come on, Maya," Jessica called out in a fake sweet voice. "Do not just stand there. Since you touched the piano, why do not you play something for us?" More laughter erupted. The suggestion was clearly meant as a joke. A cruel joke. The other students joined in. "Yes, play something," Marcus shouted. "Show us your skills." "I bet she cannot even play chopsticks," another boy added. The mocking voices swirled around Maya. She saw Lisa at the bottom of the stage. Her friend's face was full of worry and sympathy. Lisa looked like she wanted to help but did not know how. A few other students looked uncomfortable too, but no one spoke up. No one defended Maya. That was how it always worked. The popular students had power. Everyone else just watched. Maya's hands trembled at her sides. She should walk away. She should leave the stage with whatever dignity she had left. She should go sit down and pretend this never happened. That would be the smart thing to do. The safe thing to do. But Maya had spent 12 years being smart and safe. She had spent 12 years being invisible. She had spent 12 years hiding her dreams and her talents. She had spent 12 years letting people look right through her as if she did not matter. And she was tired. So very tired of being invisible. The question was clear in her mind. Did she have the courage to be seen? Really seen? Did she dare to show them who she truly was? What if she failed? What if she sat at that piano and embarrassed herself? The mocking would never stop. It would follow her for the rest of her time at school. Maybe longer. But what if she did not fail? What if she could actually do this? What if all those hours watching videos and practicing in the air had actually taught her something real? What if her dream was not just a dream? Maya looked at the piano again. She looked at its perfect keys. She thought about all the nights she had watched videos with tears in her eyes. She thought about how music was the only thing that made her feel alive. She thought about how she had promised herself that if she ever got a chance, just one chance, she would take it. This was her chance. It might be her only chance. Life did not give second chances to girls like Maya. This moment was it. She could walk away and stay invisible. Or she could sit down and show them what she carried inside her heart. Before fear could stop her, Maya moved. She walked to the piano bench. She heard the gasps from the crowd. People thought she was actually going to do it. The laughter grew louder. They could not wait to see her fail. Maya sat down on the bench. Her hands were shaking. She placed them on her lap and took a deep breath. The piano keys were right in front of her. She had dreamed of this moment 1,000 times. But dreams were easy. This was real. This was terrifying. She heard Jessica whisper loudly to her friends, "This is going to be hilarious. She probably thinks middle C is a school grade." More giggles followed. Maya closed her eyes. She tried to block out the voices. She tried to remember why she loved music. It was not about showing off. It was not about proving anything. It was about beauty. It was about feeling. It was about touching something greater than herself. She opened her eyes. She lifted her hands. She placed her fingers on the keys. The keys felt cool and smooth under her fingertips. They felt like they had been waiting for her. She pressed one key gently. A single note rang out, pure and clear. The sound filled the auditorium. It was the most beautiful sound Maya had ever heard. The laughter faded slightly. People were actually curious now. Would she really play? Could she really play? The auditorium grew a bit quieter. Everyone waited to see what would happen next. Maya took another breath. In her mind, she heard her favorite piece. It was the first real song she had learned from her videos. Beethoven's Moonlight Sonata. It was not an easy piece. It was not a beginner's song, but it was the one she knew best. It was the one she had practiced most. It was the one that spoke to her soul. She began. Her right hand played the first notes of the melody. They were soft and haunting. Her left hand joined in with the gentle accompaniment. The notes flowed from her fingers like water. She had practiced this so many times in the air, moving her fingers over an invisible keyboard. But this was different. This made sound, real beautiful sound. The auditorium went completely silent. The laughter stopped. The whispers stopped. Every eye fixed on the girl at the piano. The poor girl in the simple dress. The girl they had mocked. The girl who was now playing Beethoven. Maya felt the music take over. She forgot about the crowd. She forgot about Jessica and Marcus. She forgot about her fear. There was only the piano and the music. Her fingers knew where to go. They had practiced this journey so many times. Now they were finally making the trip for real. The first section of the Moonlight Sonata was soft and melancholy. Maya played it with feeling. She understood this music. It was about sadness. It was about longing. It was about hoping for something beautiful in a difficult world. She knew these feelings well. She had lived them. Her fingers moved across the keys with growing confidence. Every note was right. Every timing was perfect. The sound filled the theater. It wrapped around the audience. It pulled them into Maya's world, into her heart. People in the audience began to sit up straighter. Expressions changed from amusement to surprise. From surprise to wonder. This was not what they expected. This was not a little girl plinking out a simple tune. This was real music. This was real talent. At the side of the stage, movement caught Maya's peripheral vision. She did not turn to look, but she sensed someone entering. The professional pianist Catherine Chen had arrived. She stood in the wings watching. She was supposed to be the evening's performer. But she made no move to stop Maya. She just watched with an expression of amazement on her face. The teachers stood in shock. Mrs. Peterson's hand covered her mouth. She had taught Maya for months and never knew. Never imagined. How could she have missed this? Lisa stood at the foot of the stage with tears streaming down her face. Her friend, her quiet, invisible friend, was doing something incredible. Something impossible. Lisa felt pride surge through her heart. She felt happiness. She felt vindicated. Maya was special. Maya had always been special. Now everyone could see it. Jessica and her friend stood frozen. Their smiles had disappeared. They looked confused, uncomfortable. This was not how the story was supposed to go. The poor girl was supposed to fail. She was supposed to be humiliated. That was how their world worked. The pretty rich girls won. The poor girls lost, but something was wrong. This was not working out the way it should. Maya continued playing. The first movement of the Moonlight Sonata went on. Each note perfect, each phrase beautiful. She was not just playing the notes. She was feeling them. She was living them. This was not performance. This was expression. This was truth. The piece required both hands to work independently. The right hand carried the melody while the left hand provided the rolling accompaniment. It required coordination. It required practice. It required hundreds of hours of study. Maya had given it all of that. Just not on a real piano. She had given it in the air. In her imagination. In her dreams. And somehow miraculously it was working. Her body remembered. Her fingers remembered. The knowledge transferred from imagination to reality. The practice paid off. The dream became real. As Maya neared the end of the first movement, she felt something shift in the room. The silence was no longer the silence of waiting. It was the silence of respect, of recognition, of awe. People were not watching a poor girl anymore. They were watching a pianist. They were watching an artist. They were watching someone special. Maya's fingers played the final notes of the movement. The sound faded slowly. The last note hung in the air like a question, like a prayer. Then there was silence. Complete total silence. Maya kept her hands on the keys. She kept her eyes closed. She was afraid to open them, afraid to see the reaction, afraid the spell would break. The silence lasted for 3 heartbeats, 4, 5. Maya kept her eyes closed. She kept her hands on the piano keys. She felt the smooth ivory beneath her fingertips. She felt the cool air of the auditorium on her face. She waited for the laughter to return. She waited for the mocking. She waited for someone to tell her to get off the stage. But the laughter did not come. Instead, something else happened. Someone started clapping. It was slow clapping at first. One person. Then another. Then another. The sound grew. More hands joined in. The clapping became applause. Real applause. Not polite charity applause. Real genuine applause. Maya opened her eyes. She turned slightly to look at the audience. People were standing. One by one, they rose from their red velvet seats. Their hands came together in appreciation. Their faces showed surprise and respect. They were giving her a standing ovation. Tears filled Maya's eyes again. But these were different tears. Not tears of shame or hurt. Tears of joy. Tears of relief. Tears of validation. Everything she had dreamed, everything she had hoped, everything she had worked for in secret for 3 years was real. It was all real. She saw Lisa jumping up and down, clapping wildly, her face bright with happiness. She saw her teachers standing with expressions of shock and admiration. She saw the students from her school, even Jessica and Marcus, frozen in confusion and reluctant acknowledgement. And then Maya saw her. Catherine Chen, the professional pianist, walked onto the stage. She was a small Asian woman in her 40s wearing an elegant black dress. Her hair was pulled back in a neat bun. She carried herself with the grace of someone who had performed on the world's greatest stages. Catherine walked straight to Maya. She did not look angry that Maya had taken her place. She did not look annoyed. Her eyes were shining. She reached Maya and opened her arms. Maya stood from the bench, uncertain. Catherine pulled her into a gentle hug. "That was beautiful, child," Catherine whispered in Maya's ear. Truly beautiful. When Catherine pulled back, there were tears in her eyes, too. She held Maya's shoulders and looked at her face. "How long have you been playing?" Maya's voice came out small and shaky. "I have never played on a real piano before. Only in my mind. I watch videos and practice without a piano." Catherine's eyes widened. The audience could not hear their conversation, but they watched with intense curiosity. Catherine shook her head in amazement. "That is impossible. What you just played was not the work of a beginner. The technique, the feeling, the understanding of the music, that takes years of practice. I have practiced for 3 years," Maya said. "Just not on a real piano." Catherine stared at her for a long moment. Then she smiled. It was a warm, genuine smile. She turned to the audience and raised her hand for silence. The applause slowly died down. People sat back in their seats, eager to hear what would happen next. "Ladies and gentlemen," Catherine said, her voice carrying through the auditorium, "I arrived here tonight planning to perform for you. But I have just witnessed something I have never seen in my 25 years as a professional musician. This young girl taught herself piano by watching videos. She has never had a formal lesson. She has never touched a real piano until tonight. And yet she just played Beethoven with more soul than many trained pianists could achieve." Gasps and murmurs ran through the crowd. People looked at Maya with new eyes. This was not just impressive. This was extraordinary. This was the kind of story people would talk about for years. Catherine turned back to Maya. "Will you play more for us? Please, I would be honored to listen." Maya's heart soared. She looked at Catherine, this famous woman who could have been angry or jealous, who was instead offering her blessing and encouragement. Maya nodded, unable to speak. She sat back down at the piano. But this time something was different. The fear was gone. The shame was gone. In their place was pure joy. This was where she belonged. This was what she was meant to do. Maya decided to play something different. Something that showed another side of music. She loved classical pieces like Beethoven, but she had also taught herself jazz. She had watched videos of jazz pianists and learned their techniques. She had practiced their improvisations and learned their patterns. Her fingers began to move again. But this time the music was playful. It was jazzy. Her right hand danced over the keys with a melody that swung and bounced. Her left hand laid down a walking bass line that made people want to tap their feet. She played with energy and rhythm. She played with confidence. The crowd responded immediately. Heads bobbed. Feet tapped. Smiles spread across faces. This was different from Beethoven. This was alive and fun. This showed range. This showed that Maya was not just copying what she saw. She understood music deeply. Maya began to improvise. She took the basic jazz melody and started playing with it. She added runs and flourishes. She changed the rhythm. She threw in surprising notes that somehow worked perfectly. Her fingers flew over the keys faster and faster. The music grew more complex and more exciting. Catherine Chen watched from the side of the stage with her hand over her heart. She recognized genius when she saw it, raw, untrained genius, the kind that could not be taught in any music school, the kind that came from somewhere deep inside, the kind that was a gift. Maya felt like she was flying. The piano responded to her every thought. The notes came out exactly as she imagined them. Her hands and the instrument were one. She was not thinking anymore. She was not worried. She was not afraid. She was just being herself. Being a musician. Being free. She played for 5 minutes. Then 6, then 7. She moved through different styles, classical to jazz to blues. She showed everything she had learned, everything she loved, everything she was. The audience watched in complete captivation. In the crowd, a man in an expensive suit leaned over to his wife. "Who is that girl?" he asked. "She is incredible." "I do not know," his wife whispered back. "But someone needs to help her. That kind of talent should not go to waste." The man nodded. He was Professor David Morrison, the head of the music department at the city's most prestigious music academy. He had seen thousands of young musicians. He had taught hundreds of them. But he had never seen anything like this. This was special. This was once-in-a-generation special. Jessica Hamilton sat in her seat feeling strange emotions she did not know how to process. She had mocked Maya. She had called her poor and worthless. She had laughed at her. But now Maya was on stage doing something incredible. Something Jessica could never do, no matter how much money her family had. For the first time in her life, Jessica felt small. She felt ashamed. She felt like maybe she had been wrong about what made someone valuable. Marcus felt similar confusion. He had always judged people by their clothes and their houses and their parents' jobs. That was how his family taught him to see the world. Rich people were better. Poor people were less. But that logic was breaking apart in front of him. Maya was poor, but she was also amazing. How did that work? How could both things be true? Maya played the final crescendo of her improvisation. Her hands moved in a blur over the keys. The music built and built to a powerful, joyful conclusion. She hit the final chord with both hands. The sound rang out loud and clear. Then she lifted her hands from the keys. For a moment, there was silence again. Then the auditorium erupted. People jumped to their feet. They clapped and cheered. They whistled and shouted. The applause was deafening. It went on and on. People did not want to stop. They wanted Maya to know how incredible she was. They wanted her to know that they had seen something special tonight. Maya stood from the piano bench. She turned to face the audience. Tears poured down her face, but she was smiling. Smiling bigger than she had ever smiled in her life. She had done it. She had actually done it. She had taken her chance, and she had shown them who she was. Catherine Chen joined her at center stage. She took Maya's hand and raised it high. The applause grew even louder. Catherine was telling everyone that this girl, this poor girl from the small house, was the real star tonight. Not her. Maya. In that moment, standing on the stage of the Grand Theater, holding the hand of a famous pianist, hearing the applause of hundreds of people, Maya felt something shift inside her. The invisible girl was gone. The girl who hid in corners and kept her head down was gone. In her place stood someone new, someone who had found her voice, someone who had claimed her place in the world. The applause continued. It seemed like it would never end. And Maya let herself enjoy it, let herself feel it, let herself believe it. She was a pianist. She was an artist. She was someone who mattered. And nothing would ever be the same again. The applause finally began to fade. Maya and Catherine left the stage together. As soon as Maya stepped into the wings, her legs almost gave out. The adrenaline that had carried her through the performance was draining away. She felt shaky and dizzy. Catherine steadied her with a gentle hand. "Take deep breaths," Catherine said softly. "You did wonderfully. Now comes the hard part." "The hard part?" Maya asked, confused. She thought the hard part was over. Catherine smiled knowingly. "Now everyone wants to talk to you." She was right. As Maya walked back toward her seat, people stopped her. Adults she had never met reached out to shake her hand. They told her how talented she was. They asked her questions. Where did she learn? How long had she practiced? Would she perform again? Maya tried to answer, but her voice kept catching. She felt overwhelmed. Lisa pushed through the crowd and grabbed Maya's arm, protecting her friend from the chaos. Together, they made their way back to their seats. The fundraiser continued. Catherine Chen performed her planned concert, and she was magnificent. But everyone knew the real performance had already happened. People kept glancing at Maya. They whispered and pointed. Some took pictures with their phones. Maya felt exposed again, but in a different way. Not with shame this time. With wonder. During intermission, the principal found Maya. Mr. Thompson looked excited and nervous. "Maya, I had no idea you could play like that. Why did you never tell anyone? Why did you not join the music program?" Maya looked down at her hands. "My family cannot afford music lessons, sir. I did not think anyone would care about someone who taught herself." Mr. Thompson's face fell. He looked ashamed. "I am so sorry, Maya. We should have done better. We should have found a way to help you." He paused, then added, "But I promise you things are going to be different now." After the intermission, something unexpected happened. Professor David Morrison asked if he could make an announcement. The organizers agreed. The professor walked onto the stage with a microphone. "Good evening, everyone," he began. "For those who do not know me, I am David Morrison. head of the music department at the Riverside Music Academy. I have been teaching music for 30 years. I have worked with some of the most talented young musicians in this country. He paused and looked directly at Maya. Tonight, I witnessed something I have never seen before. A young girl with no formal training, no access to instruments, and no support system managed to teach herself piano to a level that would shame most of my advanced students. This is not just talent. This is genius. Maya felt her face grow hot. Everyone was looking at her again. Professor Morrison continued. I would like to announce that the Riverside Music Academy is offering Maya a full scholarship. Tuition, books, instruments, everything. We want her to study with us. We want to help her develop her gift. He smiled warmly. That is, if she wants to accept. The auditorium erupted in applause again. Maya could not breathe. A full scholarship? To the most prestigious music school in the city? She had seen the academy's building once. It was beautiful, with practice rooms and concert halls. Students there went on to become professional musicians. They performed around the world. Additionally, Professor Morrison added, I have spoken with several donors tonight. They have agreed to provide Maya with a piano for her home, so she can practice properly. It will be delivered next week. Maya's eyes filled with tears again. A piano, her own piano, at home. She would not have to practice in the air anymore. She would have a real instrument. It was too much. Too wonderful. Too unbelievable. When the event finally ended, Maya was surrounded. People wanted to meet her, to congratulate her, to take photos with her. Television news cameras had shown up somehow. A reporter asked Maya questions while a camera recorded everything. How does it feel to go from being mocked to being celebrated in just one evening? The reporter asked. Maya thought about the question carefully. It feels like a dream, she said honestly. But the music was always real. I always knew it was real inside me. Tonight, other people finally got to hear it too. The reporter smiled. You are an inspiration, Maya. Your story will give hope to many young people who feel invisible. Lisa stayed by Maya's side through everything. When a woman offered to drive them home instead of taking the school bus, Lisa came along. The woman turned out to be Mrs. Morrison, the professor's wife. She was kind and warm. As they drove through the city, Mrs. Morrison talked gently. My husband was so moved by your performance, Maya. He came home from events every week complaining that students today do not have passion. They have training but no soul. Then he saw you tonight. You have both passion and soul. You reminded him why he fell in love with music in the first place. They arrived at Maya's street. Maya felt embarrassed suddenly. Her house looked so small and poor compared to where they had just been. The paint was peeling. The yard was overgrown. She saw Mrs. Morrison notice these things, but the woman's face showed no judgment, only kindness. Thank you for the ride, Maya said quietly. No thank you, Mrs. Morrison replied. Thank you for sharing your gift with us tonight. Maya and Lisa walked to Maya's front door. Her parents were waiting. They had been at work and could not attend the fundraiser. They did not know what had happened. Maya opened the door and her mother took one look at her face. What happened? Sarah asked, worried. Why have you been crying? Maya's tears started fresh, but she was smiling too. Mama, I played the piano tonight. A real piano, in front of hundreds of people. Her father, Robert, stood up from his chair. You what? The story poured out of Maya. She told them everything. The mocking, the fear, the decision to be brave, the performance, the applause, the scholarship, the piano that would be delivered. Her parents listened with growing amazement. When she finished, her mother pulled her into a tight embrace. Sarah was crying too. My baby girl, she whispered. I always knew you were special. I always knew. Robert wiped his eyes roughly. I wish I could have been there, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I wish I could have seen it. Someone recorded it on their phone, Lisa said helpfully. It is probably online by now. Robert immediately pulled out his phone. He searched Maya's name and the Grand Theater. Within seconds, he found it. Someone had uploaded the video. It already had thousands of views. The title read, Poor Girl Mocked for Touching Piano Silences Everyone with Incredible Performance. They watched the video together. Maya saw herself on the screen, small and scared at first, then transforming as she played. She saw the audience's reaction. She heard the music. It was real. It had really happened. Her father watched with tears streaming down his face. That is my daughter, he said proudly. That is my little girl. Lisa stayed for a while longer, but eventually she had to go home. Maya walked her to the door. "Thank you for being there tonight," Maya said. "Thank you for always believing in me." Lisa hugged her friend. "You were so brave, Maya. I am so proud of you." After Lisa left, Maya sat with her parents. They talked late into the night. They talked about the scholarship and what it would mean. They talked about how life was going to change. They talked about Maya's dreams and her future. "Are you scared?" her mother asked. Maya thought about it. "A little," she admitted. "But I am also excited. I have been invisible for so long, Mama. Tonight I was seen, really seen, and it felt good." Her father shook his head in wonder. "You know what the best part is? They did not change you, Maya. You changed them. You made them see. You made them understand that being poor does not mean being worthless, that a girl in an old dress can be just as talented, just as valuable, as anyone in a designer gown." Maya had not thought about it that way, but her father was right. She had changed people's minds tonight, not with arguments or anger, but with music, with beauty, with truth. Before bed, Maya looked at her phone. The video had more views now. Thousands more. Comments poured in from strangers all over the world. People shared her story. They called her inspiring. They called her brave. They called her a genius. But the comment that meant the most came from an unexpected source. It was from Jessica Hamilton. It simply said, "I am sorry. You are amazing." Maya stared at those words for a long time. An apology from Jessica. She never thought she would see that. It did not erase the hurt of years of mockery. But it was a start. It was acknowledgement. It was growth. Maya fell asleep that night with her head full of music. She dreamed of pianos and concerts and beautiful melodies. But most of all, she dreamed of possibility, of a future that was bright and open, a future where she was not invisible, a future where she mattered. The invisible girl had found her voice, and the world was listening. Maya woke up the next morning thinking the previous night had been a dream. But when she checked her phone, the video was still there. It now had over 50,000 views. Her inbox was full of messages from people she had never met. News websites had picked up the story. Local television stations wanted to interview her. Her mother knocked on her bedroom door. "Maya, there are people outside." Maya got up and looked out the window. A news van was parked on the street. A reporter and cameraman stood on the sidewalk. Neighbors were looking out their windows, curious about the commotion. Maya's quiet street had never seen anything like this. Robert went outside to talk to the reporters. Maya could hear him through the window, his voice proud but protective. "My daughter is just a child. She needs rest. Please respect our privacy." The reporters agreed to leave, but they asked if they could come back later for a proper interview. Robert said he would think about it. After they left, he came back inside shaking his head. "This is crazy," he said. "Our Maya is famous. Going to school on Monday was surreal." Maya walked through the front gates and students stopped and stared. But this time, they were not looking through her. They were actually seeing her. Some smiled. Some waved. Some called out congratulations. When Maya reached her locker, a group of students was waiting. Not to mock her, to talk to her. They asked questions about the performance. They wanted to know about the scholarship. They wanted to be near her, this girl who had become someone important overnight. Jessica Hamilton approached slowly. She looked uncomfortable. The other popular girls watched from a distance, unsure of what was happening. Jessica stopped in front of Maya. "Hi," Jessica said quietly. "Hi," Maya replied. There was an awkward silence. Jessica looked down at her expensive shoes. "I meant what I wrote online. I'm sorry. I was really mean to you. Not just Friday night, but for years, and you did not deserve it." Maya did not know what to say. She had imagined this moment before, Jessica apologizing. In her imagination, she had always been angry. She had said things to make Jessica feel bad. But now that it was actually happening, Maya felt something different. She felt pity. Jessica had everything money could buy, but she had been unhappy enough to hurt other people to feel powerful. That was sad. "Thank you for apologizing," Maya said simply. "That takes courage." Jessica looked up, surprised. She probably expected anger or coldness. The kindness in Maya's voice seemed to make her more ashamed. "You are really talented," Jessica said. "I wish I had something I was that good at." "You do," Maya said. "You just have not found it yet." Or maybe you have, but you are afraid to show people. Jessica's eyes filled with tears. She nodded quickly and walked away. The other popular girls whispered as she rejoined them. Something had shifted. The social order of the school had been disrupted. The girl who had been at the bottom was now being treated like royalty. It confused everyone. In class, teachers treated Maya differently too. They called on her more. They smiled at her. Mrs. Peterson asked her to stay after English class. When the other students left, the teacher sat down next to Maya. "I owe you an apology too," Mrs. Peterson said. "I was there Friday night when they mocked you. I should have stopped it. I should have defended you. But I did not, and I am ashamed of that." "It is okay," Maya said. "No, it is not okay," Mrs. Peterson insisted. "I was afraid of making important people uncomfortable. I put their feelings above yours. That was wrong. You deserved better from me." Maya appreciated the honesty. She could see that Mrs. Peterson really meant it. "Thank you for saying that," Maya replied. The teacher smiled sadly. "You taught us all something important Friday night. You taught us that we have been looking at things wrong, that we have been judging people by the wrong measures." At lunch, Maya's usual table under the tree became crowded. Lisa was there, of course. But so were other students. Some genuinely wanted to be Maya's friend. Others just wanted to be associated with someone famous. Maya could tell the difference. She was polite to everyone, but she stayed close to Lisa, who had been there before any of this happened. Marcus came by the table. He looked even more uncomfortable than Jessica had. "Hey, Maya," he said. "Can I talk to you for a second?" Maya nodded. They walked a few feet away from the others. Marcus rubbed the back of his neck nervously. "I was a jerk to you," he said bluntly. "What I said on stage was cruel. I said it because I thought it would make me look cool in front of my friends. But it just made me look like an idiot." "Why do you need to make other people feel small to feel big?" Maya asked. It was a genuine question, not an attack. Marcus thought about it. "I do not know," he admitted. "Maybe because I am not as confident as I pretend to be. Maybe because my dad is always telling me to be tough and never show weakness. Maybe because being mean is easier than being kind." Maya nodded. She understood more than Marcus knew. Everyone was fighting their own battles. "Being kind is not weakness," she said. "Being kind when it is hard, that is actually the brave thing." Marcus looked at her with new respect. "You are pretty wise for 12. "I have had a lot of time to think," Maya said with a small smile. "That is what invisible people do. We watch, we learn, we think." That afternoon, Professor Morrison called Maya's house. He wanted to arrange a meeting to discuss the scholarship details. They scheduled it for the following Saturday. Sarah and Robert would both take off work to go with Maya. On Wednesday, the piano arrived. Maya was at school when it happened. When she came home, her mother was standing in their small living room, crying happy tears. A beautiful upright piano stood against the wall. It was not as grand as the one at the theater, but it was real and it was hers. Maya ran to it. She sat on the bench and placed her hands on the keys. She played a scale just to hear the sound. The notes rang clear and true. She laughed out loud. This was real. This was actually happening. That evening, neighbors gathered outside the house. Maya opened the windows and played for them. She played everything she knew. She played for an hour. People listened from their porches and yards. Some cried. Some clapped. All of them felt like they were witnessing something special. One of their own had made it. A girl from their poor neighborhood had been recognized for her talent. It gave them all hope. Thursday brought more media attention. A national morning show wanted to fly Maya to New York for an interview. A famous pianist offered to mentor her online until she started at the academy. A music company wanted to record her playing. It was overwhelming. Robert and Sarah tried to protect Maya from too much too fast. They agreed to the local interviews but said no to most of the other requests. "You are still a child," Sarah told Maya. "You need time to just be a kid. To adjust, to learn. Success can wait." Maya was grateful for her parents' wisdom. She was excited about the opportunities, but she was also tired. The emotional roller coaster of the past week had exhausted her. She needed normalcy. She needed routine. She needed time to practice on her new piano and prepare for the academy. On Friday, the school held a special assembly. Principal Thompson announced that they were starting a scholarship fund for students who could not afford music lessons. It would be called the Maya Chen Scholarship Fund. named after Catherine Chen, who had made a large donation, and Maya, who had inspired it. Maya stood on the stage while the announcement was made. She looked out at the students and saw faces she recognized. She saw the rich kids and the poor kids, the popular ones and the outcasts. She saw Lisa, her loyal friend, beaming with pride. She saw Jessica looking thoughtful. She saw Marcus, who gave her a respectful nod. Maya has shown us that talent and potential exist everywhere, Principal Thompson said. Sometimes in the most unexpected places. Sometimes in the quiet kids we overlook. Sometimes in the students who do not have designer clothes or fancy cars. We need to do better at seeing everyone. At giving everyone a chance, the students applauded. It was genuine applause, not the awkward, polite kind. They had learned something. Maybe not all of them. Maybe not forever. But in this moment they understood. Poverty did not mean lack of worth. Struggle did not mean lack of ability. Every person carried something valuable inside them, even if it was not always visible. After the assembly, Maya walked through the halls feeling different. She was still the same person. She still wore simple clothes. She still came from the small house with peeling paint. But she was not invisible anymore. She had been seen. She had been heard. She had been valued. That evening, Maya practiced on her piano. Her fingers flew over the keys, making up melodies as she went. She thought about everything that had happened. 1 week ago, she had been nobody. Now she was somebody. But the strange thing was, she did not feel that different inside. She was still Maya. She still loved music for the same reasons. She still dreamed the same dreams. The only difference was that now people believed in her. They saw what she had always known was there. They recognized the fire that had been burning quietly inside her for years. And that recognition gave her permission to burn brighter, to dream bigger, to reach further. Her little brother Tommy sat on the couch watching her play. He was 8 years old and full of questions. "Maya, are you going to be famous?" he asked. Maya stopped playing and thought about the question. 6 months had passed since that night at the Grand Theater. Maya stood backstage at Carnegie Hall in New York City, wearing a beautiful black concert dress. Her hair was styled elegantly. She wore simple but proper performance shoes. She looked like a professional pianist because that is what she was becoming. Getting to this moment had not been easy. The past 6 months had been a whirlwind of change, challenge, and growth. Maya had started at the Riverside Music Academy in September. At first, it had been intimidating. The other students had years of formal training. They came from wealthy families who had supported their musical education from early childhood. They spoke the language of music theory fluently. They knew things Maya had never heard of, but Maya had something they did not have. She had hunger. She had passion. She had the memory of being invisible and the determination to never be invisible again. While other students practiced their required hours and then went to parties or shopping, Maya practiced for twice as long. She stayed late in the practice rooms. She came early on weekends. She absorbed knowledge like a sponge. Professor Morrison had become her mentor. He was strict but fair. He pushed Maya hard because he saw her potential. He corrected her technique, which had small flaws from teaching herself. He introduced her to pieces she had never encountered. He taught her music history and theory. He helped her develop her natural gifts into refined skills. The academy had not been without difficulties. Some students were jealous of the attention Maya received. They whispered that she only got in because of her sob story, not because of real talent. Maya heard the whispers, they hurt. But she let her playing speak for itself. Within 2 months, even the jealous students had to admit that Maya belonged there. She was not just good. She was exceptional. Catherine Chen had kept her promise to mentor Maya. They met online once a week. Catherine gave Maya advice about performance, about dealing with pressure, about staying true to herself in a competitive world. She became like a second mother to Maya, guiding her through the strange new world of professional music. The story of the poor girl who taught herself piano had spread far beyond their city. A documentary filmmaker had made a short film about Maya's journey. It had been shown at film festivals and had won awards. A publisher had approached Maya's family about writing a book. Musicians from around the world had sent messages of encouragement. But the thing that meant the most to Maya was what happened at her old middle school. The scholarship fund created in her name had helped 15 students afford music lessons. 3 of them had discovered real talent. 1 was a violinist. 1 played the flute. 1 was a singer. They would not have known about these gifts if not for the opportunity the scholarship provided. Maya had gone back to Lincoln Middle School several times to encourage the students. She told them her story. She played for them. She answered their questions. And most importantly, she told them that they mattered, that their dreams were valid. That being poor did not mean being powerless. On one of these visits, a small girl had approached Maya shyly. She was maybe 9 years old, wearing clothes that were too big for her. "I like to draw," the girl whispered. "But my family cannot buy art supplies. Does that mean I cannot be an artist?" Maya knelt down to the girl's level. "No," she said firmly. "It means you find another way. You draw with whatever you have. Pencils, pens, chalk on the sidewalk. You watch videos online. You practice. You learn. And one day when you get your chance, you show everyone what you can do, just like I did." The little girl's eyes had filled with hope. Maya saw herself in those eyes. The invisible girl she used to be. The one who thought her dreams were too big for someone like her. Maya hugged the child and felt purpose surge through her heart. This was why she had been given this opportunity. To open doors. To light paths. To show others that the invisible could become visible. Now, standing backstage at Carnegie Hall, Maya thought about that little girl. She thought about all the invisible children out there. All the ones with gifts they could not develop because of circumstances beyond their control. She was playing tonight for them. She was their representative on this famous stage. The past 6 months had also changed her family's situation. The media attention had brought unexpected blessings. Robert had been offered a better job as a building manager. Sarah's sewing business had grown after people saw her story. She now had more clients than she could handle. They had been able to move to a slightly bigger house in a better neighborhood. Not rich, but comfortable, stable, safe. Tommy was thriving too. The pride of having a famous sister had made him more confident. He had joined the school's art club and discovered he had talent for painting. The experience of watching his sister chase her dreams had inspired him to chase his own. Lisa was still Maya's closest friend. Even though Maya now attended the academy and had less time, they talked every day. Lisa was Maya's connection to her old life, her reminder of where she came from, her anchor to reality when things got overwhelming. Jessica Hamilton had surprised everyone. After that conversation with Maya, she had started volunteering at a homeless shelter. She had realized how shallow her previous life had been. She was trying to become a better person. She and Maya were not close friends, but they were friendly. They had an understanding. People could change. People could grow. A stage manager knocked on the dressing room door. 5 minutes, Miss Maya." Maya took a deep breath. Tonight was the biggest performance of her life. She had been invited to play at a special charity concert at Carnegie Hall. The event was raising money for music education programs in poor communities. Maya was the youngest performer on the bill. She would share the stage with famous musicians. But she was not nervous. Not really, she was ready. She had practiced the pieces until they were part of her soul. She knew every note, every emotion, every breath. She was not the scared girl from 6 months ago. She had grown. She had learned. She had become. Catherine Chen appeared in the doorway. She was performing tonight, too. She smiled at Maya with warmth and pride. "How are you feeling?" "Good," Maya said honestly. "I am ready." "You know," Catherine said, "when I first saw you that night at the Grand Theater, I knew I was witnessing something special. But even I did not imagine you would come this far this fast. You have worked harder than anyone I have ever known." "I had to," Maya said simply. "This is my chance. Maybe my only chance. I cannot waste it." Catherine shook her head. "No, Maya, this is just the beginning. You have many chances ahead of you, many stages to play on, many audiences to inspire. Your journey is just starting." They walked together to the stage entrance. Maya could hear the audience settling into their seats. Carnegie Hall was famous for its perfect acoustics. The greatest musicians in history had played here. And now Maya was about to join them. She peeked through the curtain. The hall was massive. Thousands of seats filled with people. She saw her parents in the front row. Her mother wore the dress she had worn to Maya's first performance, the one she had modified from her wedding dress. Her father wore a suit he had borrowed. They looked proud and nervous and full of love. Tommy sat between them, swinging his legs excitedly. Lisa was there too, along with Professor Morrison and several teachers from the academy. But most of the audience was strangers, people who had paid money to hear good music, people who would judge Maya purely on her talent, not on her story. That was how Maya wanted it. The story had brought her here, but the music would make her stay. The story was about where she came from. The music was about where she was going. The house lights dimmed. The curtain began to rise. Maya walked onto the stage. The spotlight hit her. She walked to the piano and sat down. She looked out at the thousands of faces. She felt the weight of the moment. But she did not feel afraid. She thought about the 12-year-old girl who used to practice on an invisible piano, who used to dream about moments like this while sitting on the steps of her small house, who used to think she would never be good enough, never be seen, never matter. That girl had been wrong. She had always been good enough. She had always mattered. She had just needed the courage to show it. The courage to be seen. Maya placed her hands on the keys. She took one breath. Then she began to play. The music that came from the piano was pure and powerful. It was technically perfect, but it was more than that. It was full of emotion, full of story, full of truth. Maya played with all the pain of her difficult childhood, all the hope of her dreams, all the joy of her success, all the gratitude for the people who believed in her. The audience sat in complete silence, captivated. This was not just a performance. This was a testimony, a declaration, a proof that talent could emerge from anywhere, that genius could be born in poverty, that dreams could survive against impossible odds. Maya played for 20 minutes. She played pieces by classical masters. She played jazz improvisation. She played original compositions she had written herself. She poured everything she had into the music. Every lesson learned, every obstacle overcome, every moment of doubt transformed into determination. When she played the final note, there was a moment of profound silence. Then the audience erupted. They stood as one, applauding thunderously. They cheered. They whistled. Some cried. The ovation went on and on. It was not just applause for good playing. It was celebration of the human spirit, of resilience, of possibility. Maya stood and bowed. Tears streamed down her face, but she was smiling. She looked at her parents. Her mother was sobbing with joy. Her father's face was wet with tears. They had sacrificed so much for her and her brother. They had worked so hard, and now they were watching their daughter shine on one of the world's most famous stages. This moment was for them, for all the early mornings and late nights, for all the bills they struggled to pay, for all the times they went without, so their children could have, for all the love they gave even when they had nothing else to give. Backstage after the performance, Maya was surrounded by well-wishers. Famous musicians congratulated her. Critics praised her technique and emotion. A representative from a major music label wanted to talk about a recording contract. Opportunities swirled around her like snow in a storm. But Maya stayed grounded. She remembered who she was, where she came from, why she played. It was not about fame or money or recognition. It was about beauty, about expressing something true, about touching people's hearts with sound. Later that night, back in their hotel room, Maya's family gathered together. They ordered room service and ate pizza while laughing and talking. It was simple and perfect. Tommy teased Maya about being famous. Sarah fussed over whether Maya had eaten enough. Robert sat back and watched his family with contentment. "I am so proud of you, Princess," he said to Maya. "Not because you played at Carnegie Hall. I was proud of you before that. I am proud of you because of who you are. Because you stayed kind even when people were cruel. Because you worked hard even when no one was watching. Because you never forgot where you came from." Maya hugged her father. "I could not have done any of this without you and Mama. You gave me love. You gave me security. You gave me the freedom to dream. Those are the most valuable things in the world." Before bed, Maya stood at the hotel window looking out at the New York City skyline. Millions of lights twinkled in the darkness. Each light was a person with a story. Some were living their dreams. Some were still searching. Some felt invisible, just like Maya once had. Maya thought about her journey. From invisible to visible. From silent to heard. From nobody to somebody. But the truth was, she had always been somebody. She had always mattered. She had always had value. The world just had not seen it yet. Now the world could see. But more importantly, Maya could see herself. She saw her worth. She understood her power. She knew her purpose. She was not just a pianist. She was a voice for the voiceless, a light for those in darkness, a proof that circumstances do not determine destiny, that poverty is not a prison, that dreams are stronger than obstacles. As Maya fell asleep that night, she did not dream of more fame or bigger stages. She dreamed of the little girl in the too big clothes who loved to draw. She dreamed of helping more children find their gifts. She dreamed of opening doors that had been closed. She dreamed of using her voice to lift other voices, because that was the real gift of her journey. Not the talent, not the success, but the understanding that everyone has something valuable inside them. Everyone has a light. Everyone has a song to sing. Some people just need someone to believe in them first. Someone to say, you matter. Your dreams are valid. You can do this. Maya had been given that gift, and now she would spend the rest of her life giving it to others. The invisible girl had become visible, and she would use her visibility to help others be seen too. That was her promise. That was her purpose. That was her song. And she would play it for the rest of her life with all the passion and beauty her heart could hold. The end was really just the beginning. The story of the girl who was mocked for touching the piano had become the story of the woman who touched the world with her music and her message. And that story would inspire others to write their own stories, to touch their own pianos, to chase their own dreams, because in the end, that is what mattered most. Not one girl's success, but the hope it gave to countless others. The message that said loud and clear, you are seen. You are valued. You are enough. Your dreams matter. And nothing, absolutely nothing, can stop you if you have the courage to try. Maya had tried. And in trying, she had not only changed her own life, she had changed the world, one note at a time.